everyone, and welcome to the Scott Arboretum of Swarthmore College's Holly Collection. I'm Mary Tipping, curator of the Scott Arboretum, and I'm wearing this mask right now for safety precautions, but I am going to remove it so that you can hear me better. So thanks for joining us today, and I want to show you highlights from our Holly collection. We are broadcasting from the James R. Frohrer Holly collection. Mr. Frohrer was a Swarthmore College alumnus, the class of 1915. In 1974, he decided to donate his private collection of hollies to the Arboretum. In all, there were 450 plants. They had to be moved from Wilmington, Delaware to the Swarthmore campus. Mr. Frohrer was kind enough to leave an endowment. Now, of course, we needed funds to cover the transportation of the hollies, and so $70,000 of the $100,000 endowment was used for the transportation. The remainder, which is $30,000, was used for future maintenance of the hollies, and this endowment still exists today and helps us to either maintain what we have right now and or add more specimens to the collection. So let me tell you a little bit more about our Ilex or holly collection. In all, we have over 1,400 plants. Yeah. Okay. When it comes to individual plants, we have around 275 varieties. What I can tell you with our hollies and this particular location that we are in, this is a southern facing slope, which is just perfect for hollies. All hollies do wonderful in full sun. They also want very well drained soil, which on a sloping location, this is very well drained. So as you see right now, these beautiful berries are in clusters. Here's a technical term for you. The berries are actually drupes, and a drupe is very similar to peaches or cherries. So with that being said, one thing that we look for when it comes to holly varieties is the form or habit of the plant, whether it's evergreen or deciduous, the leaf shape, color, and size, and also the fruit or the berries, the drupes. And so most importantly, we do look for hollies that have beautiful fruit. Many of the fruit are either red, orange red, yellow, or black. And in this case, you're looking at a beautiful specimen, which is Ilex cornuta, Casey's dwarf. This is a Chinese holly, which has incredibly glossy green leaves and beautiful fruit. These are very, very small fruits, and so I could see the birds finding these very tasty because they can be swallowed whole. But overall, this particular variety is magnificent because it's shorter in stature. So remember, I mentioned that we look for plants that have a specific shape to them or habit. And so we've got very wide and thick in Casey's dwarf. This particular holly is one of my favorites, and I'll give you a little insider information. We are in the process of propagating it to hopefully have it for sale at the 2021 fall sale. So stay tuned. So as I had mentioned, another aspect that we look for when it comes to selecting a holly variety is the leaf shape. And here is Ilex cross with attenuata, and the cultivar name is Hume number 2. So notice the leaf shape and the leaf color. This is, well, the leaf shape is somewhat a traditional holly leaf shape, but the color is more of a medium green, not a dark green, not a light green. We're going to see some other varieties that are more of a dark green. With the attenuata hollies, they are self-fruiting or self-pollinating, so you do not need a male and female plant. You just need one of these plants and it will pollinate itself and create berries. Don't you just love all these berries? They are gorgeous. It's a beautiful red, almost like a blue red. There's a shade of a blue in it. And the fruit set, or the quantity of fruit on this particular plant, is very good. So once again, this is Ilex cross attenuata. It's a topal holly, and it's crossed with two native species of holly. So this is one of our native American hollies. This is Ilex opaca, and it is variety Judy K. Another thing that we look for, as I mentioned, is berry color. And so notice that these drupes are orange. What I can tell you about these particular berries is that the birds don't seem to favor them as much as the red fruited hollies, and also with the yellow fruited hollies, the berries are not all that large and they're produced somewhat sparsely on the plants. It's just part of the plant doing its job, and it's not that we've done anything wrong with this location or this selection. We've done everything right. The plant is very healthy, and I really love these yellow fruits, so I hope you do too. So interestingly, there are some hollies with yellow foliage, and this is one of them. This is Sunny Foster, and it was a mutation discovered on Foster number 2. Now this is another Ilex cross attenuata, so it is self-pollinating. If you notice with our particular specimen, we have a lot of foliage at the top that is yellow and minimal amounts of yellow foliage at the bottom. I'm not too sure why it does that. I've seen other specimens that are yellow throughout the entire canopy. So we've also noticed that the yellow foliage appears predominantly on the south side of the plant. And so this is a great plant. It is easily found at your better garden centers, and I highly recommend it if you like yellow foliage. So a little insider information about our holly collection. We do not irrigate these plants. Mother Nature does it for us. But when they were first installed in 1974, we took water from the Crum Creek and piped it up to all of the newly installed specimen hollies to irrigate them. So a little insider information about our holly collection. We do not irrigate these plants. Mother Nature does it for us. But when they were first installed in 1974, we took water from the Crum Creek and piped it up to all of the newly installed specimen hollies to irrigate them. So this is Dragon Slayer. What a beauty. It maintains this form naturally. It's very tight, it's very pyramidal, and how about that foliage? Remember I mentioned foliage color, light green, dark green? This is very, very dark green and very, very glossy. What a gem. This is American Holly St. Mary. Look at the fruit set. This is just incredible. Not only are there copious amounts of drupes all clustered together, but look at the beautiful clear red color. This I call almost like a nail polish red or a lacquer red color. I love this plant, and I hope you do too. So come on over to these beauties, and forgive me for the marking tape. I needed to navigate my way through all of these hollies, and this was the best way to do it. But here's a really great example of foliage color, the difference, and also the luster of them. This particular one is an English holly called pyramidalis, And not only does it have foliage that is deep green, which is pretty indicative of English hollies, but the berries, what a beautiful deep red berry. English hollies tend to have two different forms of leaves. We have the typical holly appearance in this leaf, but then we have some leaves that have no spines and have a smooth margin to them, like that leaf. So to compare and contrast these hollies, here's a different variety of holly, and this is one of the exattenuata, or the topal hollies, and this particular variety is called Savannah. Notice it still has the holly-like leaf with the spines, but it's a medium green leaf. How about that fruit set? Isn't it magnificent? So this is an English holly called laurifolia. It's very unique because it has purple new growth, and also the new stems are purple as well. I love the glossiness of this foliage, and notice how the leaves are rather tightly clustered. We don't prune this holly all that much, and it stays very compact. So I like that natural form. I love the glossy leaves, and then that purple new foliage is just a winner. So this is American holly, boyce, thompson, xanthocarpa. And this is one of our favorite yellow fruited American hollies. It has a beautiful shape. The fruit set is decent, and the color of the berries is very consistent. I have to tell you that we had to run down here and shoot this video as quickly as possible because the birds are starting to consume the berries. Now, as I mentioned before, they don't seem to be big fans of the yellow fruited hollies, but the squirrels don't seem to mind whether the fruit is red or yellow, and they are starting to pilfer from our collection as well. So I'm glad that we were able to capture a lot of these plants before the berries were all gone. Dragon Lady is a hybrid holly. It's a cross between a Perny holly and an English holly. Notice how dark the foliage is. That's where the English holly parentage is evident. Dragon Lady is pretty popular in the trade, and so you should be able to find it at any of your better nurseries. The form is very, very unique, and the fruit set is moderate. So if you're not looking for a copious amount of berries, but you want this very uniquely shaped leaf and form, Dragon Lady is perfect. So this variety of holly is Marynell. It is self-fruiting because it has parentage that goes back to a particular variety of holly that is also self-fruitful. What I want you to notice about this holly is not only the glossiness of the leaves, but the leaf shape. It is absolutely gorgeous. The fruit is in clusters, and notice the size of it. Birds tend to stay away from berries of this size because they cannot be easily swallowed. And so you will also notice these are not fully red yet, and it'll take until January, maybe even February, for these to turn a deep fire engine red. But once again, this particular variety is Marynell, and she is a winner. Just past Marynell holly is Liberty holly. This is one of the red holly hybrids, and the red hollies came onto the market, I don't know, 5 or 8 years ago, and are known for their compact habit and pyramidal shape. Liberty is a winner. I absolutely love this plant for multiple reasons, but one just happens to be the leaf shape. Hey, it's a bonus that it also has berries, and they too are in beautiful clusters, much like the Marynell holly. And they're kind of like an orange red at this moment. And so with even colder weather, they will become darker red. But how about this overall form? Isn't this gorgeous? And the leaf shape is really, really unique. So I recommend this one. So if you recall, all of the hollies that we just looked at were tree form. This particular variety is shrub form and very slow growing. So this is an English holly variety called silver hedgehog. And it's very, very novel. We chose to plant it in a somewhat sheltered location because the leaves can burn during the winter. And if you notice, there are some serious spines on the top of the foliage here, and that's why it gets the name hedgehog. And as a reminder, unfortunately, the college and Arboretum is closed to the general public due to the COVID pandemic. But we are certainly glad that you can join us for our virtual tour today. A very important aspect of our collection, all collections actually here in the Arboretum, is signage. And all of our woody plants are labeled with an accession label. It gives very specific information about the plant that relates back to our database, but then more so for the visitor and the viewer, we have display labels as well. And that's not only for our woody plants, but our herbaceous. This is an example of one of our display labels. And so the top line shows the botanical name, the center line is the common name, and the bottom line is the family name. So for those of you who have seen our plants in the Arboretum and visited us before, you have seen these dog tags. This is an accession label. It's a metal label that we use on all woody plants. And once again, this is more so for our database and our record keeping. But you will see them on all of the hollies down here in the holly collection proper. And an interesting note is that our accession labels are installed on the north side of the plant. Display labels specifically for the holly collection are, for the most part, on the south side of the plant. And this way, when we give tours and or we send people down to see the collection, we can tell them which side of the plant to look at should they want more information about the plant name. And they don't have to keep running around. They know the north side has the accession label and the south side has the display label. So another one of my favorites, but I'm sorry to say you probably are not going to find this one in commerce. This is English holly called NYBG number 2. And interestingly, we did not get our specimen from the New York Botanical Garden. We did receive this one from Mr. Frohrer. But I'm very, very fond of this variety because of its glossy foliage that is almost a black green. This is a female, but it doesn't fruit all that well. And so if you're looking for a lot of berries, you're not going to find it on this variety, but the foliage is to die for. This is one of the hybrid high Claire hollies called cherryberry. I'm very fond of this plant, not only for its enormous size fruit, which you'll see very shortly, but the foliage. And notice the deep, deep red color and the size of these drupes or berries. So you know what that means? That this plant is not going to be picked clean by the birds. The foliage is unique because it is more spoon-shaped or spatulate. And if you see how it's wider at the tip and then it narrows, it just creates a very different look. The appearance is still very holly-like, but it's not your typical English or American holly in appearance. Once again, this is called cherryberry. And so now we have a shrub form of a holly. This is Ilex crenata, which is a Japanese holly. Ilex crenata is a popular landscape shrub. What makes this particular variety unique is that it has yellow fruit. Ilex crenata generally has black fruit, and let me show you how we've got some that are yellow. Right now it's more of a greenish yellow, but as temperatures drop, these will turn more yellow and less green. This is another one of my favorite hollies, and it's one of my favorites for many, many reasons. And of course, yes, the glossy foliage, how can you miss that? But look at the berries. Thousands, tens of thousands, beautiful clusters of berries. So the fruit set on this particular variety, which is Ilex, cornuta, dwarf Burford, is excellent. Notice the size of the fruit. It's smaller. Chances are really good that the robins and other songbirds are going to pilfer from this plant very heavily, but that's okay. We love sharing, and sharing with such beautiful animals. This particular holly is cultivar Marynell. And don't you just love the foliage? Once again, I'm sorry that I keep on mentioning how glossy the foliage is, but you've got to see how glorious it is. And that shine can be seen 30, 40 feet away. Very good fruit set. So notice the size of those leaves. I want to show you a hybrid holly that has ginormous leaves. This too is one of the coney hollies, and this is called Curly Co. Really very interesting because of the size of the foliage. It has a moderate sheen to it, and this particular variety just happens to be male, so there are no fruit on it. But if you want a holly that has huge leaves and is something quite unique because of this, Curly Co is for you. So I have some insider information for you about how we care for our hollies. Remember I mentioned that they want well-drained soil. They do best in full sun. They need minimal pruning, and we do not prune them that often. So it's best if you install your plants anywhere between spring and very early fall. Try not to plant your holly past the middle of October, because you do want the plant to have time to root out so that the roots are well established, can absorb rainwater from the soil, and so that the plant does not desiccate during the winter. So as we wrap up this virtual tour, I'd like to show you two more hollies that are very special to me. This is a hybrid holly called Ginny Bruner. And it is a cross between Burford holly and the luster leaf holly, which is Ilex latifolia. I'm very fond of this plant because of the shape. We do not prune this at all. And it has this very tight pyramidal form, which I find very attractive. The leaves are gorgeous. Not only do they have a luster to them, but the shape is very unique. They're very large. And the fruit, it's in clusters, very distinct clusters, and they're more of a cranberry color. They persist on the plant well into very, very early spring. So this particular holly is very high on my must-have list. So now let's take a look at a deciduous holly, which is also a shrub. This is Winterberry, and it's native to the United States. The plant is multi-purpose because it can tolerate moist soil. It does not want to be in standing water, but it's great for rain gardens. It's suitable in full sun. It will survive in some light shade, and it has these beautiful berries, which you can see 40 and 50 feet away. And of course, the birds love them too. And I'm going to show you one more variety of Winterberry, which is just stunning and very easily found at nurseries. This is Red Winterberry. I absolutely love this variety, not only because it's very consistent with the shape of its fruit, but the color is a very, very deep red. One of the best attributes of this particular variety of Winterberry is that the fruit persists throughout the winter, and sometimes you can still find fruit on the plant in late March and early April. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the tour, And I hope that you have written an extensive list of hollies that you would like to find and add to your own landscape. So please join us again for virtual tours in the very near future. Be well.